Hi guys, and welcome to week 8. As you all know, the second assessment was due last night, so reports are over and done with. You should have all handed it in by close to midnight last night, and the marking will happen over the next 2 weeks, and you'll get your marks back in 2 weeks' time. This week, week 8, we are starting on our PowerPoint module, my absolute favourite section of the whole course, because it's the one where you get to play, you get to use images and audio and videos, and you can actually just have a bit of fun with this one. Okay, so we actually look at this for the next 2 weeks. So PowerPoint is only 2 weeks. However, the assessment isn't due until the end of week 10. That gives you time to get your marks back in the 2 weeks' time, and then have that week after you get your marks back to do that next assessment. As you've noticed in this unit, what we tend to do is we give you the assessment, 2 weeks for marking. The next assessment will be due a week after that, so you've got time to take in the feedback from your last assessment and use it in the next assessment. Okay, so as you can see, we have week 8, we're creating the PowerPoint presentation, so it's a basic presentation thing. Week 9, advanced PowerPoint, and you'll look into some personal revision and starting assessment 3. Week 10, you will go on to Excel and spreadsheets, but the assessment isn't due till the end of week 10. Now, if you're smart, honestly, do week 8 and week 9 pretty quickly, get them knocked over and get moving on to that Excel stuff. In fact, if you can do the Excel stuff a week early and get them happening a week early, you'll be doing far better when it comes to exams for maths and all those other things that you may have happening with steps. Okay, so the actual due date for assessment 3 is Sunday the 27th of January. As you know, it does say Friday, but we always give you those extra 2 days. So gee whiz, can you believe it's January already? Wow. I know I sent you an email last week, New Year and everything, but I still can't believe that we're hitting 2019 already. Okay, so starting out our PowerPoint section, I have, of course, my usual funny video, and this one, along with being funny, has some really, really good points about death by PowerPoint, or it's as it's called, life after death by PowerPoint. So enjoy.
That there's some things I hate about PowerPoint, and I figure it's kind of my duty to point them out. So here we go. Here's common PowerPoint mistakes. Number 1, people tend to put every word they are going to say on their PowerPoint slides. Although this eliminates the need to memorize your talk, ultimately this makes your slides crowded, wordy, and boring. You will lose your audience's attention before you even reach the bottom of your first slide. Please don't do that anymore, please. Number 2, most common. Many people do not run spell check. Big mistake. Nothing makes you look stupider than spelling errors. If it's got a red line under it, recheck the spelling. And then finally, I hate this. Avoid excessive bullet pointing. Only bullet key points. Too many bullet points, and your key messages will not stand out. In fact, the term bullet point comes from people firing guns at annoying presenters. Hence the bullet point. Bad color schemes, not good. Clashing background and font colors can lead to distraction, confusion, headache, nausea, vomiting, and loss of bladder control. I can't stay on that one too long. Here's something I've noticed. The number of PowerPoint slides you have in your talk, the less useful your talk actually is. Unfortunately, my presentation is right there. I've also noticed this. People love to pack data into their presentations. They shove more and more data thinking it's better, but it's not. The more data you have, the harder it is to read your slide, and the effectiveness plummets. Now you can improve the effectiveness by adding some shading and some 3D effects, and then some second order and third order effects, and then, I know, let's add some labels. That'll help a lot. And that's pretty much every marketing slide I've ever seen right there. Then some like VP of marketing standing there going, it's real clear in Q4. What the hell are you talking about? Now, I'm into in animation. People become animators in PowerPoint. You can have things flying all over the place, and that can be good. If you're a visual learner, that will improve the effectiveness of your performance. But if you're easily distracted, more animations, and people have no idea what you're talking about. They're just, wow, that is cool, wow. And there's regions here, by the way. There's the simple but effective region. There's the active but confusing, the effective but boring, the active but ineffective, the dull but static region, the busy but useless, the ADD only region, the useful but amusing, the stupid but confusing, the dull triangle, the hyper triangle, the sleepy square, the dizzying pentagon, and everything else I just call pointless motion. That slide right there took me an hour and a half to make, right there. PowerPoint can just suck the life out of you. It's amazing. I've also come up with this. It's a kind of a little science I've invented called font analysis. Basically, the font you choose says something about who you are as a person. There's a huge list of fonts, and you choose one, and that says something about you. So be careful the font you choose. For example, if you choose Courier New, it happens to be my favorite, you're probably organized and structured. If you choose Matisse, it means you're artistic. And if you choose Times New Roman, it means you're lazy, apathetic, and unimaginative, and you always use the default. Oh. A lot of Times New Roman people, welcome. We have some more. If you use freehand script, you're a horrible speller, so you try to hide it with a hard-to-read font. Very smart. If you use Gothic, it means you're very pale and you wear black. And if you choose Wingding, it means you're a nerd and you have no life. In fact, if you know what those symbols mean, you will never have a date, trust me. Don't bother.
Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed that one. I always get a laugh out of watching him, the bullet points, the, moving characters and too much animation. It is all very valid. Even though he does a good job of making it funny, it is valid. Bad color schemes, bad font choice, too much on a slide is all very, very negative and should be avoided. So, thinking about that, I'm just going to move on to talking about a few of the principles that you should be looking at when you're doing PowerPoints and pretty much any design stuff really, but PowerPoints specifically. Now, as PowerPoints, for what we're going to be talking about with your assessment, you're actually going to be looking at creating a PowerPoint that is to be used as if you were doing a speech, and this PowerPoint was there to back you up. So when we're talking about a PowerPoint for these sorts of things, you're talking about it being on a screen, probably with you talking like you would do in prep skills, with a number of people, probably in a big room. So, fonts have to be visible. Text can't be too small. Colors can't be harsh and glaring. And also everything you do should back you up. The PowerPoint should not take over. If a PowerPoint is taking over on a speech, it's too much. So a lot of these principles are designed to sort of guide you when it comes to PowerPoints to back you up well on a speech. Okay? So think about your backgrounds. Now, I know the concept of having a beautiful picture in the background with some writing over it sounds really nice and easy, but there's a few things to be aware of. Number one, majority of photos, well, not just majority, all photos have highlights and they have the shadows. So what's going to happen there is if you use black text, it gets lost in the shadows. If you use white text, it gets lost in the highlights. So as you can see here, this blue text on this picture, it should sort of stand out. It's a different color to what the picture is, but it is very hard to read. It's too small, it's too fine. You'll see that the "you eated my cheeseburger" is our usual meme type of text. That big heavy white text with the black background, black border, the black border is there. It offsets the white, so it doesn't matter what the image is in the background. And that's why memes quite regularly use this type of text. It stands out on a photo. So really avoid busy photos and little text. It's not going to come out well. Okay? Solid text that has both white with a black outline, or even black with a white outline, depending on what you're doing, will look better. But as a general rule, I would tend to avoid having photos in your backgrounds. Use a photo as a photo, use text as text, and only combine the two if you really need to and it's, you know, going to make an impression. Okay, ooh, bad color schemes. Here's one, as we can tell, bright yellow in your background is probably not advisable. Yes, confusion, headaches, nausea, pretty much that, don't do it. Your color schemes, I'm going to skip off that one. One of the biggest things to think about with color schemes is contrast, high contrast. So your highest contrast is of course white and black, so black on white or white on black. And colors that are going to contrast well. If you are going to have yellow, and as I've said, it's probably not your best choice, a nice dark black solid sort of text on it, you know, could actually be pulled off in the right circumstances. But again, I don't see yellow as being necessarily viable in most situations. Okay, moving on. So design, when you're talking about design and the design principles for PowerPoint, a few things to think about. Number one, be consistent. So when you create your design, you are going to have the consistent design throughout. So your design is going to be the same. You're going to have that same sort of style of background throughout, the same font throughout, the same animations throughout, the same transitions, similar backgrounds or the same backgrounds throughout. Okay, so keep it consistent. Don't have a different color for every slide, a different font for every slide, a rainbow of things happening around the place. Unless you're talking to a bunch of preschoolers, it probably won't work. Okay, minimize animations. You need to stick with, and generally for really good design, but also for your marks, let me tell you to stick with minimal animations. Pick one animation style that is going to be the animation style you use for exit and entrance animations. Pick one animation style that you're going to use for images. One for text, one for images, or the same one for both is even better. One transition throughout with the possibility of a different one at the end to finish it off. But generally minimal, two transitions at most, one throughout the whole slide with the possibility of that end one. And as I said in the last couple, avoid those cluttered backgrounds. You know, a plain background is going to make it easier to read. Okay, 3 colors maximum, so don't go nuts with your colors. 3 colors, black and white aren't actually included. You can have 3 colors along with black and white, but don't go trying to go for a rainbow of colors. Okay, and as we've seen in the last one, avoid those bad color schemes where you have, you know, a bright color in the background, another bright color on it. It just doesn't tend to work. Okay, so with your content, you should never have your content too close to the edge. Now when I say this, there's no given rule as to how close you should have it. However, if you are on a widescreen and you are using a widescreen format, that's great. But if you're on a narrow screen and the screen's set up to fill the page, you will lose stuff down the sides. So I would tend to keep it in, you know, have that sort of estimate in your head of, I don't know, about an inch. You know, when you're looking at it, I know we don't use inches, 2.5 centimeters approximately, something along those lines. There's no given on these things. It's more just don't have text too close, especially images, because they can sort of, if there's an image that can cut off and you're not chopping people off, that's fine, but text shouldn't be too close to the edge. Appropriate language. So here's the thing. This is an academic document, so it should actually have academic language. Now when I say this, I don't mean that you need to get all highfalutin and trying to get fancy words. What I mean is we're not going to have swearing on there. We're not going to have anything that's too vulgar. That the 18-year-old come up with a nice word. So yes, appropriate language. It's academic, and unless there's a good reason for it, I would prefer not to see bad language in it. And as a general rule, you know, it's your safest bet. Minimal sound effects, so don't have a sound effect with every transition and every animation. If it makes sense with the slides and it works, that's great, but remember this is to back you up in a speech, and if you're trying to talk and noises are happening behind you, it's not going to back you up, it's just going to distract. Okay, not too cluttered, so keep it fairly minimal. Don't have lots on the screen. Keep it that it's not distracting. Again, correct grammar, spelling and punctuation. If it's going to be up in front of people, you don't want them standing there looking at your spelling mistakes and judging you on them. You want them to actually read what you have there and try and take it in. With your text, okay, so appropriate and legible. So solid fonts, not your fancy swirly fonts, that unless you're using them in a heading and it's very clear to read, avoid too much fancy font. Another thing to think about with your fonts is as it is a PowerPoint reads the fonts from your computer. Now if you send a PowerPoint with some fancy fonts you've downloaded and put them up for the markers as the assessment, or you, in any case, if you're doing a slideshow that's going to be used on another computer and that computer doesn't have the fancy font, it will adapt it to something else and it won't look right. So you're best to actually stick with your basic fonts that you know are going to be on most computers. So that's things like Arial and Times New Roman, Calibri, those ones that are the generic basic ones. They're not as fancy, but they will work and look the way you want them to on any computer you put them on. So they do tend to be a safer bet. Okay, so big, minimum of 24 points. I should not see any text anywhere on your slides that is smaller than 24 points. Okay, clear, sans serif. So what a serif is when you have text, the old-fashioned text in books that had the little lines that sort of at the top and the bottom of each letter. So your N would have a little line and your I's would have the little line and the little dip. That's a serif, and it's designed to make text readable in paragraph writing. Well, that was the idea in the old days. Now they've just discovered that it just really clutters it and makes it more messy to read. And on screens with the pixelation, it isn't as easy to read. So, font like Arial that I've got on here, no serifs. It's just the basic letter like we were taught to draw when we were kids without those extra little lines. That's just fonts that you want to be aiming for. Okay? Appropriate colours. So we've kind of talked about this already, but in your text, you can have colours in your text to add some contrast and to highlight things, but don't go overboard. Don't go too bright. Keep that high contrast so it's very legible, and be consistent. Again, your 3-colour maximum, three colour maximum, that type of thing. So you can use the colours and size of text to create contrast. Don't overuse all caps. So all caps, when you're learning to read, and this is an interesting concept, we're all taught about the letters that are bigger and the letters that are smaller, and as we read we actually use those F's down to the A's, up to the L's, down to whatever, to read. And when you turn something into an all caps and have all capital letters, it turns it into this big rectangular block. Actually makes it harder to read, especially in like paragraph text when you have multiple lines. So while all caps are fine in headings where it's 2 to 3 words, once you go beyond that, say maybe 2 to 4 words in a heading, don't use all caps. Keep it with the upper and lower in your sentence case. It just makes it more legible and easier to read. And minimal word art, please. We don't want all the fancy things in there. It's a distraction and it starts to look tacky when you've seen the word art over and over and over. So yes, so bullets, and now we're already following through with what our little funny video had, but let's go with about a 6x6 rule. Okay, the 6x6 rule on bullets is 6 bullets per slide and 6 or less words per bullet. So bullets are only key points. You do not use full sentences when you're using a bullet point. If you have a full sentence, you probably find that should be on a slide of its own. Key points with bullets, okay? Don't have full sentences. It just makes it far better. Bullet points are designed to get the point across, back you up, and get that main point across as you're describing things. Okay, images. So be careful with your images. Big visible images are going to be far better than some tiny little thing in a corner that's really not adding to it. As you can see on this slide, the big image on the side highlights that, you know, I was probably going to be talking about birds, or that I went somewhere and took some pretty photos of birds, so I put them in my slides, which in this case is correct. But the little slide at the top, really not so much. So visible big slide images. Careful cropping. If there's a person, you know, in it, don't crop them in half. Don't chop heads off. Also, if you're resizing on a photos, especially photos of people, but generally on photos, don't widen and narrow. It warps the photo and it looks wrong. You know, it takes that realistic photo quality away and is just wrong. Matching graphic types. So don't have a clip art and a photo and a I don't know what cartoon all on the one page, you know, fighting for attention. Stick with very simple and keep that matching graphic type, especially within a slide. Consistent borders and frames. So we talked about consistency before. Pick one border or frame for your images and use it all the way through. All the way through the slides. Don't go from a blurry edge to a harsh edge to a black border to a mirrored thing. Keep it all consistent. Pick one, use it all the way through. Minimal animation. As I said, you'll have animations where they come in, animations where they go out, but pick one and every image throughout the whole slide gets that one animation style. That's easy. Avoid clip arts and emojis. Somebody asked me what clip art was, and it's probably not as common today, but Word and PowerPoint originally came with their own little set of pretty corny little pictures. They're corny. Enough said, avoid them. Emojis, unless it's really getting your point across, no, you don't need them. This is an academic thing. It should look that way. Okay? So the order of your slides, this is fairly simple. You should always have a title slide. In fact, in the assessment, you get marks for having a title slide. You will have your content slides, and then you should always have a closing slide. Okay, closing slide can be as simple as thanks for listening, thanks for watching, any questions, you know, depending on what you're doing. If your slide, if you're expected to ask for questions, have any questions as your final slide. If you're expected, if it's just something where you've been talking like I'm doing with you guys, you can just have thanks for listening. Okay, the content slides, again, depending on what you're doing, you know, don't have too many. It's honestly not a good thing to have 50 slides for a 5-minute talk. Okay, they actually, now some people say 1 minute per slide, so 5 minutes, 5 slides. I think you can probably go up to about 3 slides per minute, but it depends on what you're trying to get across and how much information you want to get out there. But don't have too many slides. It can just, again, take away and distract. Okay, so everybody knows the KISS, the KISS theory. Keep it simple, silly, because I'm not being naughty. Okay, remember, keep it simple and you will find that your slides will always look better. Okay, and the final slide. So, any questions? Don't forget, guys, please feel free to email me any questions about anything in the unit. I always try to do my best to answer, and if I can't, I'll probably go look it up on Google and answer anyway. Any questions, email me. I hope you all have a good week, and I hope you really enjoy this PowerPoint module. It's, as I say, it's the fun, the relaxed, the easygoing one. I will have a look at the assessment next week. I'll actually pull it open and just have a quick look through of it, because it's a little bit different to the others, where the others were all very structured. This one's kind of open and allows you to do whatever you feel like. So we'll have a little look at it for ideas, and so I can sort of guide you on, you know, how things have been done, or, you know, what concepts there are for you. But that should be released next week, and we'll open it up and have a look at the actual instructions in the video next week. So that's it for now. Good luck with your report assessment. Email me questions. Email me those consolidation activities. I'm loving hearing from you all. I'm loving hearing the little comments about how your Christmas and New Year's have gone. And I hope you all had a lovely Christmas and New Year's. And yeah, hope everybody's got, I don't know, I haven't made any New Year's resolutions. My resolution's pretty much constant. You know, lose weight, be healthy, I don't know, get through study and uni. That's it. I'll talk to you all later. Bye.